Welcome back, you guys. Kick back and relax as we dive into another episode of Skip to Saturday. Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are doing fantastic. We're halfway through the season. Can you believe that? I can't believe how fast time is flying by. So a few weeks ago, my dad was like, I didn't know Kate Spade made handbags. And I was like, huh? That's what she's known for. And he was like, I had no idea. And I was like, yeah, they're really popular. She died though. And he was like, she died? I was like, yeah. And then he said, but she just went up with Blue Origin. And I was like, oh my God, that wasn't Kate Spade, Dad. That was Katy Perry. I have no idea how he confused Katy Perry with Kate Spade at all. I don't get it. Anyways, in today's episode, we do have someone who went to space. I'm so excited. Joining us today is someone who truly reached heights most of us only dream of. Nicola is a seasoned test pilot and astronautics engineer with an incredible career spanning from the Italian Air Force to the cutting edge of commercial space travel. With over 8,700 hours logged in the cockpit and experience flying 179 different types of aircraft, he is a master of the skies. But he didn't stop there. As an experimental test pilot for Virgin Galactic, he has completed 4 suborbital space flights on VSS Unity. Whether he's piloting a fighter jet or a spacecraft, Nicola has dedicated his life to pushing the boundaries of what's possible in flight. Let's welcome him to the show. Hi, Nicola. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here and taking out the time from your busy schedule to do this with me.
My pleasure, anytime.
You have a really interesting background. You earned your degree in aeronautical science from the Italian Air Force Academy. And then in 2001, you were selected to join the Italian Air Force Center and attended the French Test Pilot School, which you graduated in 2003. By the way, I had no idea how expensive Test Pilot School is. It's like,
Yes, it's very expensive,
I
yes.
had no idea. So it's like, it's clear that you have to have very special skill sets in order to be picked to attend that school, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Wow, that's impressive. That's really amazing. And then in 2011, you joined the National Test Pilot School in Mojave, California, as a civilian test pilot instructor, where you served as chief of operations. Now, this is the part where we're going to talk about. So in 2015, you transferred to Virgin Galactic, where you now serve as an experimental test pilot and engineer on the White Knight 2, Spaceship 2, and Delta class programs. You've flown on 179 different types of aircraft, spanning from high-performance combat fighters to transport aircrafts, gliders, and helicopters to spaceships. You've flown on 4 suborbital space flights on VSS Unity, which is a Virgin spaceship Unity for you guys who don't know. 2 as a test pilot and 2 as a mission commander. That is crazy. Did you ever think as a kid you would be working on spaceships?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, even if you asked me 10 years ago if I could ever imagine doing anything like this now, the answer would have been no, most likely.
That's
So yeah,
that's so
it's
cool.
been quite a ride in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So looking back, was there like a moment in your life or a memory from where you were younger that just clicked that made you, think like, yeah, space and engineering is for me? Like that's what I
Yes,
want to do?
there were 2 moments actually. The first one I remember very clearly when I was 6.
Okay.
I got this little Lego for
Mm-hmm.
my Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
that was a little spaceship that I started to assemble together.
Mm-hmm.
And so that actually got me into being absolutely interested in all space activities and what space would have been space exploration and things of that nature. And then also I was kind of attracted by the engineering side of building things, and so.
Mm-hmm.
That was at 6, and then when I was in middle school at 12, I
Mm-hmm.
clearly remember saying that I want to definitely be a pilot. And
Okay.
so, and that was the time in my life where I was reading books about flight test and all the great things that were done, in the U.S. in the 50s and 60s, right after the World War II, when the aviation kind of exploded into more modern, high speed, high altitude flight testing, and that's what really got me attracted. And so with keeping in mind what I wanted to always be in, since a little kid as an engineer, and combining that aspect of flying with engineering basically leads you into flight test. And so
Hmm.
I decided then in middle school that I really wanted to, pursue a military career as a military pilot initially, and then possibly as a test pilot.
Wow. In middle school.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
and then from that day, I committed myself to everything I studied after, and the fact that I was able to join the Italian Air Force Academy, and so it was all driven by that one day decision, So just
that's mind blowing because I feel like as middle schoolers, I mean, we all have these dreams as kids, but then they change over time. When you get to high school, college, you change your mind, but
yeah,
you set your mind to it and you're
yeah,
like, I'm gonna do this.
yeah. I was lucky because I didn't, have to think about different options. I just had one option in my mind, and then I committed into it. So it was quite a privilege to be able to
Wow.
do what I did, but. You need to be also very lucky, in terms of being in a proper physical condition and
Hmm.
be able to, go through all these selections, not only from a study standpoint, but also from a physical standpoint and everything else. And so I felt very privileged, but I was very committed as well, and I had a big passion of space and flying, and that translated later on into, my profession.
Wow, I love that. Kudos to you for sticking to it.
Thank you.
You've flown some very impressive aircraft. What are some of the biggest surprises or even unexpected similarities when you went from piloting those high performance military jets to handling a spacecraft, especially with a unique way suborbital flights work?
Yeah, so it's the interesting fact about the spaceship that Virgin Galactic has developed is that
Hmm.
it is manually flown to space. You have some level of stabilization that helps you out in your duties as a pilot, but you physically fly the machine to space, which is, for a test pilot is the wildest possible dream coming true, right? And
Hmm.
so, and that is very similar to what you normally do in a military environment, right? Most of the military jets that you're flying,
Uh-huh.
they're manually flown, so you
Okay.
kind of get used to the level of performance and handling qualities and capabilities of the airframe that you're flying. So to me, though, what was very different is that the level of performance that you see in a suborbital flight that are required to push you up to space, it is so great that you cannot really match it with any other high performance military jet that you've flown before. And so I was really surprised, I would say, in a positive way,
Hmm.
from the impressive performance of the vehicle, the suborbital vehicle VSS Unity that I had the privilege to fly. And so, but the principles are very similar. So the way
Hmm.
that you approach, the piloting aspects of one military jet versus a suborbital spacecraft are very similar because you need to be precise, you need to be reacting quickly, you need to think quickly,
Hmm.
and so it's very similar from the piloting nature standpoint. Having said that, obviously the performance capabilities are not even close, and so it is quite impressive to be able to in just few seconds to be able to leave the atmosphere and climb up vertically and then be in space like literally 1 minute later. So
Is
it's
it
a
one
it's a
is it 1 minute
yeah,
later?
yeah, from the release of the mothership, because
Uh-huh.
remember that in our system, we were not launching from the ground. We
You're
are
you're going
carried
up,
up at
right.
altitude with the mothership that climbs very slowly initially, and then it does release you at release altitude. But from that moment of release to the moment that you're approaching space is pretty
Hmm.
much just over a minute. And so
Wow.
it's a pretty quick ascent. And in terms of performance, I don't think it is matched by any other traditional rocket launch.
Wow. I thought it was like I thought it took an hour to get to the altitude.
It takes an hour for almost an hour, I would say probably 45 to 50 minutes for the mothership to climb from the takeoff on the runway to the release altitude. But once you separate from the mothership
Hmm.
and you light the rocket motor, the vertical acceleration is pretty much happening right away. So you burn the rocket motor for about 1 minute, and then you have accumulated so much energy that you can actually coast all the way up to space. And so from the moment that the rocket motor shuts down, you're basically transitioning from this high acceleration environment to a zero G environment. So you're in microgravity or in a sort of a weightless condition, I should say.
Hmm.
Not microgravity is not an appropriate term to use, but you're weightless because now you're going up in such a with such a speed that the velocity vector that is pulling you down from the gravity is actually balancing exactly your energy that you're going up, and so it's like being in a very in a very high trampoline kind of
Oh.
experience. So that's the analogy.
Okay. So I wanted to talk to you about that. So how did that feel? So when you're in space for about 10 minutes, right, before you come back down?
We're about 4 to 5 minutes.
Four to
That's
five
the
minutes.
weightless experience, from the moment the rocket motor shut down to the moment you're back in the atmosphere.
So how did that feel to you?
So the pilots actually don't feel that much because we're still strapped in our seats.
Okay.
The customers can actually separate from the seats and they can float in the cabin and
Oh,
have the full experience.
okay.
For me, it was kind of weird though initially on the very first flight because you have practiced so many times in the sim when you're on the ground,
Hmm.
and now you have developed a sort of a muscle memory where your hands and arms are moving to grab and reach for the switches and the controls. And
Hmm.
when you're in space now, then your arms don't wait anymore, and so you have a tendency to keep, moving your arm based on your muscle memory that you have
Right.
memorized on the ground with the weight. But now
Hmm.
you're going a little bit above what you're expecting, and so you really have
Oh,
to look initially for that specific switch or that control. And that
okay.
was a very strange sensation, but it's a pretty unique feeling of feeling your body in a no weight condition in that moment of transition.
Wow. That's crazy. Oh my
It is,
goodness.
yeah, it's an experience I wish everybody would have the opportunity to feel and to experience personally.
So, okay, so that goes into my next question. If you could take someone to space, who would it be? And it can't be a colleague.
It's probably, it's a hard question because there are so many people I would like to take,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
part of the reason that I got into the professional aviation career, and I was grown also as a kid, to be so passionate is
Hmm.
probably because of my dad.
Hmm.
I would probably say I would probably bring my father in space if I could. He's gonna turn 82 in few months. He's not
Oh.
doing super great health-wise, but when I was a little kid, he was telling me stories about the Air Force and the fact that he actually tried to get into the Air Force, and we started to build some RC models together,
Hmm.
and then. It taught me a lot, and I learned a lot from the engineering aspects from what we were building together. So it's been a very good mentor for me when I was a little kid, and I think it would be nice if I could have the opportunity to bring him
Hmm.
with me.
Is he in the States or is he back in Italy?
No, he's still in Italy, so as a
Still,
matter of
okay.
fact, I'm gonna go and visit him soon
Oh,
in one of my trips. But yeah, he came to visit me here once in a while, but it's been a long time now.
Were you at Virgin Galactic when he came last time? Because are you, I think you are allowed to bring visitors to when you guys kept the spaceship there, right?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, he was never able to travel after I joined the company. So
Oh, okay.
he actually never saw he's never seen the operation, but he's been following me on the social media as much as he
Mm.
can possibly do that,
Oh, that's so sweet.
at a
I hope you
distance.
get to take him one day. That'd be really
Yeah, well, we'll
nice.
see. That would be nice. Yeah.
That'd be really, really nice. So I want to talk a little bit about the training because I can imagine that getting ready for space can be like the space mission can be really intense. What was the toughest or most unexpected part of your flight preparation? And can you walk us through the whole journey from the day you found out you were going to space to finally launching?
So I've been waiting a long time after I joined the company to get my first space flight.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about 8 years.
Okay.
In those 8 years, it was a natural transition, I would say, in terms of my training because I didn't just show up and then 2 months later I was going to fly, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I had plenty of time to get into the engineering aspects of the vehicle, how it flies. And as a matter of fact, I'm also, assigned as a pilot from the engineering aspects to the flight sciences team, for example. So I did have the time to learn a lot before getting into my first spaceflight assignment. But then once you're assigned to a flight, then your training really starts to pick up
Okay.
as a pilot, and so you're now more focused into, running the simulations in the simulator that we have, including all possible abnormal scenarios. And so I spent more than 3,500 hours in the sim before my first space flight, which actually it turned out that the actual flight was exactly like being in the simulator, And so
Mm,
it is very important for us to be able to train in that fashion and be able to replicate exactly what we're going to experience and see in the real
right.
flight. And so I would say it was not something that happened like, oh my God, I'm going to be assigned now and I'm going to have this mountain ahead of me that I need
Mm-hmm.
to climb in terms of preparation and training because I had plenty of time to walk through that mountain and reach the top, right? And so, but the training involves it's very hard. It does require a lot of time spent not only between the two pilots that are flying the mission, but also with the engineers that are going to be serving in the mission control center and following the flight
Right.
from the ground. So we have every specialist, every specific discipline from the engineering standpoint that is going to follow a specific system. For example, the propulsion team or the avionics team and everybody else. And so they're also going to be trained together with us. And so we're
Okay.
going to spend a significant amount of time in these sessions that we are actually going to practice, together with everybody else. And that was it was an interesting part because you learn a lot and you think that you already knew a lot of stuff, but actually you're going to learn even more.
More, right.
Thankfully, to these bright engineers that we have here at Virgin Galactic and all the team in general.
So how long did that, you said it was 3,000 hours, right, that you could put in? So
Yeah.
like how does that translate into like months or years?
So, it's about 8 years for
Okay.
me. But
Okay.
the core, I would say the last 1,000 hours, I probably flew those just in the 6 to 8 preceding months of my first flight. Then
Oh,
after
okay.
after you've seen a flight, you keep training, obviously, but the peak of the performance in terms of effort is actually going down a little bit. So you're not so I would say unfamiliar with the expectations because you've seen a flight already and you know what is coming, right? And
Mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
that was a little bit different after the first flight.
Okay. Okay. There's this thing that astronauts talk about, like the overview effect, right? When it's a profound shift in perspective when you see Earth from space, even for that short amount of time that you were there.
Did you feel that deep connection or change in how you view our planet or humanity?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really changing everything, and I'm not saying that because a lot of other people they said the same thing. It's really something real,
Okay.
and for me it was I was grown as a traditional Catholic religious person,
Mm-hmm.
and I practiced, like until that point, and then I actually saw the planet from outside. I recognize how insignificant we are as human beings, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
how significant also we are, that we can build something that brings you up from that incredible point of view. And then you realize really that the universe is so vast, is so
Mm-hmm.
big, and
Mm-hmm.
we're just a little speck in the
Back,
middle
yeah.
of almost nothing.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just to put it in terms of a song from the REM, I lost my religion, so I kind of I really believe that from that moment on, the religions are something that the humankind has made up.
Mm-hmm.
But I still believe in God,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
in some sort of creator. But I don't see the differences now that we have, like on Earth, between one religion versus the other, which was kind of a little bit more felt before, for example. So that was my transformation,
Oh.
I would say. But the what you can perceive from space is pretty amazing, and the colors are so bright, with the reflection of the sun. It's like
Mm-hmm.
imagine any high definition image you can possibly see on a screen. This is actually way better than that. And
Wow.
the level of details that you can pick up from the ground are incredible. The clouds and the contrast between the colors of different areas on the
Mm-hmm.
ground. It's really amazing. As well as what I really found very fascinating was the how thin the atmosphere is actually visible from space, and if you go out on a very nice sunny day and you look at the sky with no
Mm-hmm.
clouds, it seems to be so big.
Right.
In reality, it is very, very small, and very thin. And
Uh-huh.
so when you see that from space, compared with the size of the planet, and you see this little layer of gas that
Mm-hmm.
is actually the atmosphere, it is really mind-blowing,
Wow.
and I really look into that every single time I flew also the other missions, I was really focusing to pay attention to that because it was really quite something to experience. As
Because you
well
don't
as
get to,
also,
sorry,
yeah,
go.
no, no, go ahead.
No, because you don't get to, it's not an everyday thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's something that you can only see from that special point of view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even if I bring you up in an airplane at very high altitude, you start seeing the darkness,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't really appreciate how the most of the air and the atmosphere is actually underneath you. You can start seeing that the sky is turning dark from
Mm-hmm.
a very dark blue to some darker blue or almost black if you really fly at very high altitude. But the commercial airplanes that you normally fly, they're not going that high,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can barely start appreciating that change and that shift. And so once on the other end you're outside the atmosphere and you look down now and you see that little layer, it's pretty amazing. And it's very, very thin. So it makes you wonder, that, that's only the little layer that keeps everybody alive,
Yeah.
including the plants and the animals and everybody. And so we really need to think about, pollution and what we're doing with the atmosphere because it is very, very delicate, and you don't really appreciate that until you're really out in space. Uh,
Yeah.
th- yeah, the other interesting part also that changed my shift into that religious process, I would say, is that you look at the black of the space and
Mm-hmm.
it's so empty,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably the blackest of the possible black colors that you've ever seen. It's like the total absence of light,
Mhm.
and so and then you try to look far away, and there's absolutely nothing, and so if you're lucky to spot maybe the moon, in some of the positions that we're orientating the, that we can orientate the spacecraft, then yes, I mean you can appreciate the distance of the moon or things like that, but I've never had the chance to see any of the other planets like Mars or Venus, but you just look into this black and there's absolutely nothing, and it's really mind blowing, so that's what makes you wonder.
Were you able to take pictures of anything out there?
So I no, we don't have time to do that as pilots,
Oh,
but we do have
okay.
plenty of cameras on board,
Okay,
and
okay.
those are recording every one of our customers when they fly in the cabin, and then and they also can take some still shots, and so we have plenty of photos
Okay.
and videos as well,
Okay.
so
Okay.
that is pretty impressive, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
We actually, in our last flight, we had located two GoPro cameras,
Mm-hmm.
which were nicely positioned on the front windshield, and we
Mm-hmm.
have like incredible photos of that moment, when
Oh,
we
that's
were
so
up in space.
nice. Are you able
Yeah.
to take like I know so they're available for you guys. Are you able to like download them and take them with you or and
Yeah, there are some available actually also on our website. So if you go on
okay.
the gallery there, you can download some of the shots that we have collected in several missions that we have flown up to this point.
Okay, I'll definitely take a look. I want to see
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So, what is the difference between pilot and commander on the VSS Unity? Because you've been in both seats. Can you tell us about the different responsibilities and how your perspective might change when you're flying as a pilot versus being the mission commander during a space flight?
yep. So the mission commander is the pilot that sits on the left seat and is the pilot that physically flies the spacecraft
Okay,
throughout the entire duration of the flight.
okay.
The pilot is actually what we call the co-pilot.
Mm-hmm,
Is the pilot sitting on the right seat, and
mm-hmm,
he or she is the responsible pilot for running all the checklist. If there is a problem, then is taking the immediate actions to start to resolve the problems. The co-pilot also has some other duties that are typically performed in a nominal mission, I would say, which are like feathering the spaceship, which means that the aft part of the spacecraft can actually fold in
mm-hmm,
order to prepare for re-entry. So that's what the co-pilot, or in this case, the pilot, is
mm-hmm,
actually doing. As well as lightening the rocket motor and shutting down the rocket motor if we need to. So there are very many duties that the co-pilot, named the pilot, is actually performing during the mission, while the focus for the commander is to first of all ensure the safety of everybody on board. So once we get to space, for example, is the commander that clears off the seats, everybody on board, or tells everybody to go back in the seat,
mm-hmm.
and then but at the same time is fully responsible to fly the trajectory as expected.
Okay.
And so, if there is any issue with the, let's say with the flight controls on the commander seat, the pilot cannot take over. So the flight controls and everything is pretty much replicated on the other side.
Mm-hmm,
But in a nominal situation, the pilot on the right seat, so the co-pilot is not really flying the vehicle. It is the commander that flies the vehicle. And
oh.
so the training involves different aspects. So you normally train always together, but when you're transitioning from one seat to the other,
Mm-hmm,
not only you're thinking more about the commander duties of being responsible for the entire flight and crew, but also you have to spend a lot more time to physically fly the simulator in preparation for the real actual flight,
mm-hmm,
while the pilot, the co-pilot in that case, spends more time looking about how to resolve the emergencies, how to read the checklist appropriately, and then making sure that you're the best supporter of the commander in terms of duties, so that you can share the workload as it's supposed to be.
mm, okay. Was it easy for you to transition from like one position to another?
Yes, we typically try in our training, with those 3,500 hours of simulators, we're not only flying from one seat, we try
Mm-hmm.
to mix between left and right so that by
Oh,
the time
okay.
that you're actually ready to go on the left seat, it's a natural transition, I would say.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
so it's not that you're gonna do only one thing for 5 years and then the next
Mm-hmm.
5 years you're gonna switch on the other side. So we'll try to always be flexible also because we don't really have a lot of pilots, and so we need to have that sort of level of flexibility to be able to switch between one seat and the other. But if you're assigned to a dedicated mission, yes, you try to practice as much as you can in that specific role.
Right. Right.
However, you should be able to switch if necessary.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. You said that when you were like when you came back, there is you had a change in perspective on humanity, right? When you were up there and experienced all of that. Now, what are your thoughts when people question the investment in space exploration, suggesting that we could be using that money to solve the problems here on Earth?
I'm saying that I would be the first person that if that money spent to space exploration will
Hmm.
resolve all the problems on Earth, will definitely do that. But
Okay.
we're not gonna fix all the problems on Earth because
Hmm.
we're giving away space. As
Okay.
a matter of fact, space is actually helping a lot humanity to,
Okay.
progress and resolve some of the problems also that we have. If you think about not only the technology development, but also for example, if you look at the satellites that are preventing, populations from being affected by severe weather, for example, we
Hmm.
can
Hmm.
we can know that ahead of time, and we can get prepared, for example, to evacuate, if there is an hurricane coming or something that is going to affect your area, right? So, we can do both, right? We need to resolve the problems on Earth, but at the same
Hmm.
time, we need to push for space exploration. And the reason I'm saying that we need to push for space exploration is because that will make humanity better. As a matter of fact, if I had the chance to bring every single human being,
Hmm.
especially politicians, up in
Hmm.
space and
Hmm.
try to change their perspective of what they see, as
Hmm.
we're basically a single human race in a little rock that is actually
Yeah.
orbiting a very
Yeah.
common star
Hmm. Hmm.
in the in somewhere in our galaxy, pretty far
Hmm.
away from the core of the galaxy, then probably we can understand that we should try to get along a little bit better together, right? And so I think that the space mission is not only from important from the technology standpoint, but it is also very important from the how we're going to evolve as humans and as a species in our universe, right? And so I think yes, it does cost a lot of money to go to space and explore space, but at the same time, we need to do it, and we cannot afford to sacrifice that to try to resolve the problems on Earth that we can actually uh, try to resolve in other ways, And so we
Right.
need to have both
It could
paths
happen in
always open.
parallel.
Yeah, yeah, it can
Okay.
happen in parallel. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, see, like I think normally when you see comments on social media about like the flights that happen, that's the one of the things that I've read a lot. Like, they're spending so much money sending people out to space when they can be using that here. The light bulb went on in my brain when you answered that question because I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, if you think about, you know, commercial aviation, for example, right? Right now, the tickets that we sell, and not only us, but also our competitors, they're
Hmm.
pretty expensive, right?
Yeah.
But
How
if you
much?
have the
Sorry, how
it's,
much are they?
so right now for Virgin Galactic is $600,000 to buy a
Wow.
ticket if you want to buy
Okay.
it now. But
Hmm.
some people have been waiting a long time, and they actually bought it for a little bit less than that.
Oh,
But
okay.
the if you compare with the commercial aviation in the years 20s or 30s, just before World War II,
Hmm.
they were pretty much spending a significant amount of money to fly commercially with the very first airplanes that were able to cross the Atlantic, for
Hmm.
example,
Hmm.
between Europe and America, right? And so they had the option to go with the boat, right? And the traditional way of traveling back then.
Hmm.
And if they didn't spend that money, then we would never probably see the commercial aviation that we have today, where you can pick up an airplane from Los Angeles and go to India, and you're going to be
Right.
there 15 hours later, right?
Right.
And so, and at a reasonable cost, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
uh, pushing the boundaries initially is going to be very expensive, with any sort of level of technology. But
Mm-hmm.
then once this becomes common, then
Mm-hmm.
potentially the prices will go down,
Right.
and
Right.
the entire humanity can benefit from it. And as a matter of fact, I believe that in the next between 30 to 50 years, we're going to see millions of people in space, and this is going to be very common to maybe travel to the moon, or going to Mars, or anything like that, which right
Oh,
now seems
wow.
to be like almost unsurmountable, right? But
Right.
the more people we can bring to space, the more that perception of who we are as a
Mm-hmm.
as a human race is going to be, and then we just need to do it, So I think it's going to be only beneficial for everybody.
Benefits, right. Okay. Okay. Millions of people. Like when I was a kid, I didn't think I would ever see the day when we would have people going up. Us, like, not professionals who have been training, but like us civilians going up to space. Like that's crazy that that opportunity will come one day, and it seems like it's
Uh,
approaching faster.
Yeah, it is coming already.
So, what advice do you have for aspiring aerospace professionals? So for anyone who is dreaming of a career in aerospace, whether they want to fly, design, or even become an astronaut, what is one piece of advice you'd give them?
So, I grew up in a very simple village in northeast Italy. And
Hmm.
when I was a kid, I would have never believed that was able to do what I'm doing today, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so, linked a little bit to what I said before, that we're
Hmm.
gonna see millions of people in the next decades flying to space. There are so many opportunities and so many things that an engineer or an aerospace enthusiast can actually do today
Hmm.
compared to my days, for
Right.
example. And I believe that if you really want to achieve a professional career in the aerospace community, you can certainly do that in many multiple forms. Can be, exclusively on the aviation side, but also if you really want to become an astronaut, it's not only a very wild dream that only few can actually achieve. Is
Hmm.
probably going to be a lot more common in the future. So as long as you're committed and passionate about what you're doing, it
Hmm.
shouldn't really matter, right? And
Right.
and you should be able to achieve your end goal. So my
Right.
recommendation is study hard, be passionate about
Yeah.
what you're doing, and then be persistent and consistent also, because you need a lot of patience,
Yeah.
and sometimes it takes many years. I flew my very first flight when I became 50,
Uh-huh.
and if I think that I was trying to do that in my 30s,
Hmm.
it took a long time, and so, but finally, I got to see our beautiful planet from space. So it's never too late, and so
Hmm.
don't quit on your dreams, and try to, commit into them, and sooner or later, very great things will happen for you.
I love that. Thank you for that. Before I wrap this up, I have one last question to ask you. Looking back at your remarkable career, from your test pilot days to flying in space with Virgin Galactic, what's that one moment or achievement that truly stands out as your proudest?
Well, getting to the point of flying to space has been a constant building up on previous milestones. I think I took a lot of pride of having been able to fly Unity, VSS Unity last commercial flight last June, and that's something that I will treasure forever. And the reason I'm saying that is because I got into the company 10 years ago when Unity was almost finished to be built, and
Okay.
seeing that shift from the very beginning into the initial flight test, and then into the commercial flights, and having the opportunity to fly the very last one has been a privilege for me. And so I think I will treasure that as one of my greatest moments in my professional career.
Oh, that's nice. I'm so happy that, you got to do this, that you're doing this now. I don't think a lot of people can say that their wildest dreams do come true, but there are a handful of people who will say that and have experienced that. But it's really nice to talk to someone that, can say that, like, something that he never thought he would do, he's doing right now. I
Yeah,
love that.
that's yeah, yeah.
I love that.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking out the time and having this chat with me.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and
Yeah.
looking forward for the next chat.
I'd love to bring you on again.
All right, sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere, you guys. I'll be right back. Would you guys ever want to go to space? Before this conversation, I read a lot about people's opinion on sending people to space and spending all that money on that when we could use that elsewhere. And I agreed, we should focus more on what's going on Earth because sometimes it feels like we're hanging by a thread. But now, after hearing Nicola's point of view, someone who has actually gone up to space, it makes me want to have that experience myself. I don't think I'll be able to afford it because I heard the tickets are really, really pricey. And I have that one fear that like we would get stuck up there and never come back down. It would only just happen to me. I feel like that's my overthinking part of my brain. Anyways, I should have asked him if he had any fears while going up to space. So that might be a question I will ask him off to the side. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I had a lot of fun having Nicola on my podcast and just learning a lot about, what it takes to be in that position that he's in. So if you learned anything from today's episode, I hope it was to stay committed to your dreams. It's so important that you do that. He made his dreams come true, obviously, right? So there's really nothing stopping any of us from achieving ours. I hope that you guys pass this message on to others, the people that you care about and love, because it's really important and some of us really need to hear it. Please tune in next week for another new episode. And until then, take care of yourselves and have a great rest of your week.